Here is Grandpa Jack in his 1940s Studebaker. This was taken right across the little road from us where Peter and Pasha's house was. There's Grandpa. My dad's in blue, bending down, and there's my little head. I have no idea what this little party was. There's Margaret Maynard and my mom, David's arms. And I see that the porch is on. My dad built that porch after he built the fireplace because he had enough rock left over. Dad said, it's a movie camera, move. So we moved. Poor little Cindy. And I'm not sure what Mom has, but the dogs certainly want it. And Duchess, and Dookie's the one who jumps a lot. This is in front of our little house. I loved that little house. It is, as I said earlier, it's gone. Oh, this kind of hesitates for a second, but it'll come back. That is the fireplace that my dad built. Every one of those rocks he split himself. There's my grandpa. Shirley Donnelly had a drive-in restaurant. It was a little trailer where she did the cooking, and you would drive up to it. And my mom was probably the waitress. She would go out to the car and get the order. This was on the corner of 77th Street and US 31. I do remember when we went horseback riding. It was very unusual for us to do things like that. But that's Brother Bob riding bareback out at Kibbe Riding Stables. Gaffneys, there's Jack. Gaffneys lived in Chicago. Marilyn is the one jumping around up there. Bob's holding the dog. That's Grandma and Grandpa Gaffney. I don't remember a lot about them, but they were good friends of my parents. The two children, I think, were Jack and Marilyn's, and the little boy with the big ears was his nephew, I believe. That was Bob pushing the wood, and there's Cheryl. Cheryl, you spend as much time at our house as you did at your own. There's Richie's cabin in the background and his outhouse. And our wood pile. My dad built the fireplace in our house. He put in a system where it heated, the heat came out, and he even had a vent in the bedroom, and that's what we heated with. Johnson's house across the street was the haunted house. There's Richie's. And Richie had a yellow car. This is all changed. There are all kinds of houses here now. The Johnson house is gone. Grandma Ryan's house, I think, is still there. My house is gone. That was the big house, I believe. Yep. That is definitely Richie Cale and Brother Bob. And there's that shipwreck out by Deerlick Point. Cheryl and myself, my mom. I've been up to the Shipwreck Museum up at Whitefish Point. It's a very intriguing place. I first thought that shipwreck was down by our house. But then when I saw this part of the video here, I realized that this is Deerlick Point. Richie lived in Chicago. And he had something to do with movies. He was called a best boy, and I don't know if they worked with the cameras or what, but if you ever see a movie and it says on there, best boy, that's what Richie did. That was our little Studebaker that we had. Winter at the house. And I don't see Grandma Ryan's house. So this was before Grandma Ryan's house was even put there. She wasn't my grandma, but everybody called her Grandma Ryan. I remember the ice storm of 1963. Everything was ice. Building the fireplace. And of course, we had to help. I think this had to be around 1960 or 61. Bob's 9 years older than I am, and he looks to be about 14, 15. Jack and Marilyn Gaffney. And Uncle George, and there's Jasper in the background. Uncle George was going to go to Arizona, and I didn't know where Arizona was, but I loved my Uncle George. David and Duke, and the little Gaffney boy. His ears were bigger than David's. That was a little Gaffney girl. We were about the same size. I don't know. The porch is not on, so that was before Dad put the porch on. And Jack was pounding in the stakes for our fence. He was quite the kidder. Marilyn didn't know what was going on. And Jasper even climbed up that ladder. Jasper was Dorothy's husband, Dorothy's mom's cousin, running down the hill. You look back at those times and you think how wonderful they were. What a good childhood I had. Living on that on the lake, having that beach as my own playground. I thought every kid had a lake in their backyard. And when I got into geography in school, and I realized that the lake was only so big and there was another piece of land on the other side called Wisconsin, I felt so sorry for those kids in Wisconsin because we got all the waves because they always came this way. They always came to our beach. Times were really good then. Cheryl, she was a beautiful artist. Still is, Cheryl. Just like your sister Denise. You guys got that from your dad. Cheryl always talked about witch hazel. She would draw pictures of witch hazel. And Cheryl could bark like a dog better than anybody else. And now, David is going to get in trouble. A little piggy, I think, was a toothpick holder of all things, but I liked it, and I played with it. Dad said, run over there and then run back. It's a movie camera, you have to move. I'm just too much into the memories right now. We used to climb up that hill, and we'd climb over a couple of hills. My dad, and I believe it is Jasper, were cutting down a tree. If you could look at that saw, that is one heck of a chainsaw. They had a tree that they were going to cut down. Yep, that is definitely Jasper. And my mom's taking the pictures, and she says, Al, the tree's going to fall on you. No, it's not. It's not going to fall this way. It's not going to fall. Oh, it's falling this way. I can't imagine what we could do with a saw like that now. We had a lot of wood. None of it was on our property, but there was I don't know how many acres between us and Pilgrim Haven, but a lot of dead trees back there. And we were able to get a lot of firewood for the fireplace. We also got all of our Christmas trees because just north of our house was just all woods. And David and I would go running up in those woods and play. And then, of course, there are birds. Lots of birds. And if you're going to have firewood, you got to carry it, you got to stack it. Sometimes you got to split it. Mom was right there beside Dad, helping him out. May, Blaha, and Petey, her little dog Petey. And she had, I don't see Butch, but she had Butch also. Butch was Dutchie's son. This was taken right across the little driveway from our house. There's our house in the background. May used to buy ice cubes. She'd buy a box of them, and anytime we went over to her house, she'd let us have one. Now they're like 50 cents each. We had a well pit in the front yard. That was where our well was. Does that look like that same Studebaker? I think it is. I think that was Grandpa's car. And there's our well pit. It used to freeze up a lot. There's the big house, and there's Shirley's house behind the big house. And now that Sandhill has encroached on the big house, it's a wonder it's still there. That was our sliding hill. I know kids go sledding now, but we used to go sliding. There was also another hill down at the, where our driveway, or I guess you'd call it our driveway, our road came in. We used to slide on that one all the time, too. And Duke has something treed, he thinks. He's not really sure. I don't know what happened to Duke, but we still had Duchess until I was about 13.